To complement the team section of my full Yidhari guide, which by the way you can check out right here, let's have a deeper look at the various teams and how they perform in relation to each other. As per usual, tests are subjective after all, and my scores and experiences will be different from others, including your own results. All tests are based on the Wandering Hunter, which I deem to be the only viable boss for her at this moment, as well as the Rupture buff, which will play heavily into Lucia's favor. The gap between various teams will narrow when the Aethervel chill is over. And with that said, let's begin with the classic Yidhari, Fufu, Lucia. Fufu provides a lot of inactive days and supports a more on-field focused playstyle for Yidhari. However, the Wanderer is also a highly aggressive boss that requires a lot of consecutive parries. This results in Fufu not being able to make as much use of her inactive chain attacks as well as her spin as she would like to, which leads to a slightly lower overall days as she could be dealing. In addition, her assist follow-up is honestly quite slow, which can sometimes play against her due to the boss movements, but regardless, Fufu provides enough days for a consistent 4 stun windows. While Manato and Yijuan highly appreciate Fufu's increased decibels and the decibel refund, Yidhari does less so. While it rarely actually becomes a problem, there have been a few times where I actually missed out on my ultimate on Yidhari due to her activating her ultimate too early. Because of how Wandering Hunter's mechanics work, we basically always want to make sure to initiate the stun window with either a dodge counter or assist follow-up, but it is also not really possible to control when Fufu will stun the enemy due to her inactive chain attacks, and hence that makes it a little bit ugly. Hence, while I deem her to be a great general partner for Yidhari and the most comfortable choice to play with for most players, Fufu is not her best in slot partner. That being said, Fufu's buffs and inactive days outweigh her cons, and she is a great general partner for Yidhari. Overall, I rate this team with an A in performance and an S for its ease of use. For Fufu, I recommend either of her signature, Fossilized Core or Blazing Laurel, each for different reasons. Continuing with Fire Stunners, Koleda did surprisingly well as well. While she cannot reach the same heights as others, she can relatively easily achieve a Miasma skip even at Mindscape 0 and up to 5 stuns at Mindscape 2. Her daze is unparalleled, but the frequent and honestly far too quick stuns do not allow Yidhari to regenerate enough resources for each stun window. This often results in Yidhari not having resources for the stun window, which overall just means a lot less damage. This will matter a bit less when the stun damage Deadly Assault buff is gone, but regardless it is still important to note. However, Koleda is known for having the best dodge counter in the game, and due to the boss's aggressiveness as well as his mechanics requiring either assist follow-ups or dodge counters, Koleda can make maintaining his stacks much easier compared to other stunners, while not missing out on much days. We can simply stay on field with her and just dodge counter. Due to this, Koleda might be one of the better stun options for players who struggle to maintain Wanderer stacks, as we can simply on-field her and rely on her dodge counters to do so. A B for performance and an S for the ease of use. As a side note, Koleda works best with the craftable R5 Fossilized Core for an easy 20,000 points and Blazing Laurel for the highest potential, albeit her score cap is still lower than others. Lycaon has proven himself over and over again as one of the best standard banner choices, and this is the case for Yidhari as well. In fact, I would argue Lycaon to be her best in slot choice with the highest potential. With Wandering Hunter being ice weak, Lycaon's assist follow-ups being rather quick, and him providing ice resistance shred and a stun damage multiplier, he fits super well with Yidhari and allows for strong stun windows. Lycaon can also pretty easily skip the Miasma phase with Fossilized Core or even Blazing Laurel, which I found to be much harder with Fufu. However, arguably, skipping the Miasma phase does not necessarily result in a better score, as doing so makes it very hard for you to gain stacks afterwards before the next stun window. I don't really have much negative to say about this team outside of make sure to initiate the stun window using Lycaon to apply the stun damage multiplier, and make sure his ice resistance shred as well as King of the Summit don't run out during stun, so use his EX special shortly before stun. Lycaon also is much better on field compared to Fufu, which makes maintaining Wanderer stacks a bit easier as well due to being able to use his dodge counter more efficiently during red flash attacks. Overall, he deserves both a double S for performance and an A for ease of use. I recommend either Blazing Laurel or Fossilized Core for him. Just as Qingyi has been great for Minato and Yejuan, so she is for Yidhari as well. However, I did not like playing Qingyi into Wandering Hunter. While he allows for a lot of dodge counters, he often has barely any downtime in between his attacks and does not allow for much time for Qingyi to spam her basic 3 and fill up her resource. Her dodge counter unfortunately does not really give too much of it either. Due to this, I personally found it a little bit annoying trying to get all subjugation stacks onto the enemy. Because of this, she is not able to gain a good amount of stacks on her signature as well, which makes other weapon choices preferable. While I'm sure that a great Qingyi player can perform much better with her than I can, this at least has been my experience. I am looking forward to being proven wrong. And hence, personally, an A in performance and a B in the ease of use. If you can find a great routing with her, I'm sure she can achieve a better score here. Oh boy, Trigger. For some reason, I can literally not explain why, I have achieved my highest score using Trigger. Don't ask me why, I really don't know. However, the gap between Lycaon and Trigger is not really too big, but I would deem Trigger to be Yidhari's second best choice. Trigger allows for more on-field time with Yidhari, which made the team feel pretty smooth to play overall. Trigger will not have access to her additional ability here, nor does she make good use of her signature. Due to this, I found myself running Impact in slot 6, King of the Summit and a 2-piece Shockstar to make sure I can get the needed days for 4 stun windows. While Fossilized Core still works great for her with not too much of a difference in score, I have found Blazing Laurel to be her, honestly expected, best weapon choice. It was however surprisingly easy to run out of Purge, as the boss does not really allow for much downtime to refill it efficiently. I found the best time to enter the sniper stance and refill it to be right after the second stun window after Miasma phase. Speaking of which, Trigger did not deal enough days for me to be able to skip the Miasma phase even once. While it was certainly a different experience to the other stunners and will need some time to get used to, especially for this fight, Trigger did perform the best for me on average and hence gets awarded the double S for performance and an A for the ease of use. But this has been my personal experience and I want to emphasize again that I am very sure Lycaon is the actual better teammate when playing to the fullest potential. Orphie and Lighter are another pair that in theory should do super well with her, but in practice just lag a little bit behind. Not because the team itself is bad, but because of other reasons. The Wandering Hunter's mechanics do not play in favor of Lighter and Orphie, as sheer damage does literally nothing for them, and in addition, Lighter's jab combo takes a surprising amount of time, which often results in you either having to give up a parry in exchange for higher elation stacks, or giving up elation stacks in favor of a parry, none of which is really fantastic. While Lighter's stun extension and ice resistance shred are very good for Yidhari, she already gains a substantial amount of damage bonus from her core, destroy sets and other buffs, which diminishes Lighter's buffs by quite a bit. They do heavily buff Orphie however, speaking of which, Wanderer also has massively increased defense with a further 40% increase during Miasma. This makes Orphie deal significantly less damage even with all the buffs in place. Orphie also provides 700 flat combat attack, but that only translates into a mere 210 sheer force for Yidhari. Better than nothing, I suppose. Lastly, with Rupture buffs being very specific to Rupture agents, who would have thought, they are essentially useless for Orphie, which diminishes her value when in combination with the previously mentioned issues. Generally, however, the team plays very well and I believe it to be one of Yidhari's better teams in a vacuum. However, not versus Wanderer and not with the current Deadly Assault buffs. It might do rather well in other matchups, such as Marionettes, but that boss is currently not available and hence this team is very hard to judge as of right now. A B for performance and an A in ease of use. Again, this is specifically versus Wanderer, other bosses might change this. Without Lucia, Pan Yinhu can take her place as well, and so the team did just fine, even if there was a noticeable difference in score between any Panda team versus Lucia, and that is to be expected because of the buff. You know, Ether Veil and all. However, any Panda team can clear just fine. However, Panda's assist follow-up is extremely slow, and I found it sometimes hard to find a good opening to use his EX special as well, as Wanderer just constantly wants me to parry. Not really much to say here. If you have Lucia, use Lucia. If not, use Panda, you will be fine. A B for performance and an A for the ease of use. Lastly, I also tried a double stun composition with both Yinhu-Fufu and Koleda, and I want to highlight 2 things about this team. First up, this team easily allows for 3 stuns before Miasma, and second, this team fucking sucks, and I would not recommend it outside of the occasional laugh. You have absolutely no resources whatsoever on Yidhari for any stun rando, as you just stun like every 10 seconds. Is it very fun to play? Yes. Is it also just bad and not good? Also yes. Anyway, I will leave the footage running here until I had to stop playing because I burst out in laughter after just getting 3 stuns before the miasma phase and just couldn't continue playing. And lastly, a double support composition with Panda and Lucia works, but due to most of her damage being during stun and this team inherently just having less stuns than running a stunner, I would not necessarily recommend it. It works, sure, and I also, by the way, forgot to press record when trying this team, so enjoy this random B-roll. It is highly likely that you have either of Koleda or Lycaon, so please just use those instead. And that covers all the teams which I think personally are worth talking about. If your team here is missing, well, unfortunate for you. No, Yidhari is not a sub DPS and playing her with Yijuan or Manato is also not good. Anyway, that also means we're at the end of the video. I hope this video has been helpful to you. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, leave a comment on whether or not you will be pulling for Yidhari or not and which team you wanna play her in, and also of course join the Discord. A special thanks to my YouTube and Patreon members who make this content possible. If you wish to support me, you will find a link to my Patreon in the description. And as always, I appreciate all of you and wish you a great day. Peace.